All right, welcome everyone. This is Revenue Roadmap, where we talk about driving revenue and increasing profits in local businesses. I'm Anthony Karls, president of Rocket Clicks, and today I am with Miss Lisa Filip. She's going to talk to us a little more about content marketing. Last time we talked about the formula. This week we have a conversation about developing customer avatars. So should be interesting. Before we jump into that, Lisa,
Yes.
I'd love to know from you, what are your go-to strategies for unwinding after a particularly busy day, especially a day where you have to deal with a lot of invoicing from our most favorite client?
Oh, yes, that is my favorite task to do. That's a good one. I'm a morning gym person, so I usually start my day with that. So if I have a particularly hectic day, maybe a lot of invoicing, I do really just like to go for a long walk. I like a lot of times don't even put headphones in or anything. Like I'm one of those. I don't even have a dog, so I just am literally walking by myself, no headphones, no nothing, just de-stimulating, listening to nature. So I would say that's probably one of my favorite things. I'm a big reader too, so sometimes I'll just go escape into one of my novels and just kind of transport myself somewhere else for a little bit. So I'd say those are my two go-tos for sure.
Nice, yeah, a good transition from high intense energy of the day. I think in the giant world we call that shifting gears correctly, so you don't go from super intense five back home into the house world, running at a five and being overly intense with those that may not be at a five. But
Right at the same level. Yeah,
maybe you need to downshift a little bit. So
yeah,
a good walk is a great strategy. Love that.
yeah. I love those.
Okay, so we're gonna continue our conversation on content marketing. Today we're talking about customer avatars. So tell me, what does that mean? What is a customer avatar?
For sure. Yeah. So a customer avatar is all about creating essentially a profile of your ideal customer.
Mhm.
So typically an avatar, it resembles a real person, so to speak. If you've seen them in maybe decks or things like that, you've come across before, they often have a goofy name associated with them. That's some sort of alliteration, like I don't know, Teacher Ted or something like that, right? People love those names in the avatars. But yeah, it really is just a profile of your ideal customer, and a lot of businesses will have multiple of them. So
Okay, so before we dive into the different topics, how specific should we be in these different buckets we're going to jump into?
yeah, definitely. You wanna be pretty specific. It's really helpful to picture a real person when you're putting these together. So if you think of the best customer you've had, the best client you've had, right? Someone who is a real, living, breathing example of someone that you want to work with. If you catch yourself saying, "Man, if I only had 100 more of people who looked like this, customers who looked like this." And if I could just make up my whole, revenue book with that person, that's a really good way to kind of picture, your avatar and create your avatar around someone like that. So it's going to be pretty detailed.
Awesome. So we have five buckets that we put these in. So what are those five buckets? And then let's start defining what those are and giving some examples for each of those.
Yeah. So the five buckets, like you said, like to break it up a little bit. So bucket one is going to be goals and values of that individual. The second bucket's going to be their challenges and pain points. Third bucket's going to be a little bit more nuts and bolts, the demographic and geographic information of that individual. Fourth bucket, sources and information. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means later. And then the fifth bucket is objections. So those are kind of the five buckets, and we're going to dig into them. So I'll hold myself back.
Nice. Okay, so what are goals and values? So tell me
Yeah,
what.
definitely. So I like to start with goals and values. I think it gives a good overview of who this individual is going to be. I said those buckets in the order I did intentionally because they kind of think helpfully build off of one another as you're going through an exercise like this. So goals and values, really thinking about and asking yourself the questions like, what does this person want, right? What do they value? So for example, If you were like a family law firm, I know we like to use that kind of example a lot. If you were thinking about what does this person want, what do they value? They probably want some sort of support in a family, concern legally that they're going through. So if we use, child, alimony, for example, right? This person is, what do they want? What are their goals? They're concerned about stability for their children, right? They're concerned about, like, they're looking for, essentially a plan to make sure that financially they have a future to build on for their family. So then on the values side, right, you're still kind of picturing this person, values they're gonna really value, again tying it back to the services that you offer. They're gonna value transparency, they're gonna value stability of your business because they're seeking stability, so they're looking for engagements with a business that is going to be consistent and reliable, transparent and trustworthy. So those are the kinds of things you can ask yourself, and a little example kind of mushed all in there together for you.
Yeah. So so it's understanding what that particular client might want, real specifically. What are their big goals, and then values. What do they value from a service perspective or from a product or service like the one that you are helping provide?
Yep.
Whether that's quick communication, especially in like a legal setting, you know, clients don't know, it's scary. Like this, oh man, I got to go to court. I know that at the law firm, one of the law firms we work with, that we get to work pretty intimately with, the one of the biggest pain points that drove a lot of value was how do we respond and how accessible do we make the attorneys? Because the more accessible they were, the more comfortable they were, the better we prep them for the upcoming hearing, the more positive the client service scores were. And it's all about, like, they're a wreck, full of anxiety, and like they're already in an anxious spot. So like, don't get that from us.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool. So you said next one was challenges and pain points. What does that mean?
Yep. Yeah. So, challenges and pain points, right? It's really asking yourself the question, like, what would stop this individual from being able to reach those goals that we kind of just outlined above? So again, that's why these buckets are kind of intentionally ordered the way that they are. So you kind of outline the goals and the values, and now you're thinking about, okay, what's going to stop them from reaching those goals? And in terms of pain points, like, what are they scared of? You kind of touched on some of those even in your example, right? Going into a scenario like that, they're scared because it's probably the first time they've ever been through a scenario like that. They have no idea what to expect. I've never, most people are good people. They don't spend a lot of time in court. So, it's like, what do I wear? What time do I show up? How early? Where do I go? Those are the kinds of things, as a person who plans, I'm always, kind of worried about. So if I was working with, a lawyer and they proactively provided me that information, here's everything you need to know, what a weight off my shoulders. It's like, again, you're almost reading their mind. You're eliminating proactively some of those things that they might be afraid of. So it's usually a good starting place to build that trust.
Awesome. Yeah, it's you can build your service around it, but you can also like use all of that to get that into your marketing and your communication plans before they're even a potential client. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
how are you providing information? What type of information? How responsive are you to, if they call the firm, if you submit a web form, if they submit a chat, all of those types of things.
Yeah.
Leaning into some avatars' pain points, or maybe leaning away from other avatars' pain points, depending on what you're communicating.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. You're asking yourself, like, what's going to stop them from the goal of, maybe going through and having a conversation and having some sort of resolution for the problem that they're going through. A great example that you kind of mentioned on the side is having multiple forms of communication to offer them on the website. They might not feel comfortable, making a phone call. They might not have the time and the space and the privacy to do that. So being able to submit a form is a huge opportunity. It removes that challenge from them from being able to reach out and ask for help, because a lot more people feel comfortable typing in a box than they do picking up the phone and having to talk to a human. So things like that, for sure.
Yeah, especially telling that story.
Yeah.
first time they're telling someone they don't know what the story is. That's a hard thing to do for some of those people.
Definitely.
So next you said demographics and geographics. So what does that mean? Sounds
Yeah.
more nuts and bolts.
Yeah, definitely more nuts and bolts. So this is very much like who they are as a person, a little more like physically, right? So what is their typical age? What is this avatar's gender? What income level do they typically have? What career are they typically in? Physically, those are all kind of on the demographic side. Geographic, right? Where do they physically live? For a law firm, they're working within a physical location radius. But if you're working within a large city, are these people in the city? Are they out of the city? Are they in a certain type of suburb that's associated with one, kind of avatar type versus another avatar type? So there's a lot of, it seems kind of cut and dry, but there's actually a lot of really great information that you can pull out of just sitting down and thinking about, is this person 25 or is this person 35? It's going to look a lot different in how you write content to them, how you communicate with them, and where you'll find them, which we'll talk about kind of in the next bucket as well.
Yeah. So yeah, the next bucket, sources and information. So what does that look like?
Yes, yeah. So sources and information, I alluded to it, but it's like, where are these people on the internet? And not even on the internet, but in the world. Like, what are they consuming? Where do they get their information? What books are they reading? What conferences are they going to? What TV shows do they watch? What magazines do they read? What coffee shops do they go to at their, within their local community? It's all of those things, which not only tells you who they are and maybe what their interests are, which is really viable when then you're building out advertising, right? Because advertising platforms let you target people who like certain things, do certain things, go certain places. But it also just really helps you know where you can show up on the internet. So if you know they're always on these types of websites, these types of blogs or forums, you can be really intentional about making sure your content shows up where they already are.
Yeah. I know one thing that I've always been like super interested to maybe someday have the opportunity to do is here in Wisconsin, we have a chain of gas stations called Quick Trip. And in the mornings, if you go to a Quick Trip between 6 a.m. and about 8:30 a.m., there are all of the home service trade workers are there.
Yep.
You are a recruiting firm looking for people that are good at what they do and they're already employed and they're pre-vetted by somebody else. It would be a great place to put an ad using a platform like Simplify to just draw a plot line around Quick Trip. We're going to serve ads because they're sitting there pumping their gas every morning.
Yep. Getting their coffee
On their phone. So you see them there all the time. And it would be a great place to hit that, target them, and then follow them around and give them a, hey, are you getting what you need from your employer?
Yep.
You want something different?
Right. Speak to those challenges, right? What are their pain points?
Exactly.
Got it.
So yeah, interesting. Like there's a lot here in terms of like leveraging, where are they? Where do they get their information? How do you do that?
Yeah.
All right. So last one, you said objections. So what does that mean? I think this one kind of ties in a lot of these, and then helps you kind of think about where to potentially go with your content.
Yeah, definitely. So the question I always ask when I'm kind of in this objections bucket is, what's going to stop these people from actually taking the action that you want them to take, right? What's holding them back? So that's a great question to ask yourself. And to your point, those are the questions that you want your content to proactively answer for those individuals, right? So, if, for example, you're thinking about, we'll use the family law, firm again. If people are concerned about, they want to contact somebody, but they don't know how much it's going to cost, or they maybe don't know what the time frame of something like this is. If I contact you, how soon is my significant other maybe going to find out that I'm seeking maybe, this route, right? So proactively writing content that explains the process. Hey, this is what happens after you contact us. This is what having a consultation for divorce really looks like. This is, what our privacy policy looks like in terms of when your partner will or won't find out. That answers all of those objections proactively that someone might have, so that when they do feel like they're going to be ready to fill out that form, they know exactly what's going to happen when they hit send. So
It's awesome. Great. We went through all 5 of these.
Yeah.
I talked a little bit about being specific. Any other words of advice here on how to think about building customer avatar and how to start thinking about leveraging it?
Yeah, I would say the last thing to consider that, kind of encapsulates all of them together is making sure that you're considering the question, is this avatar that you've created, are they the person who's going to be able to actually make the decision that you want this individual to make, right? Submit the form, request the service, make the sale. It's not to say that you would never want to create content for an avatar that's not the decision maker, especially in longer sales cycles there or whatever you sell may have multiple people involved and only one person's actually the decision maker, but it's important to get content in front of everyone. Totally fair game. But you definitely want to prioritize your decision maker because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to be able to engage directly with your business and, kind of complete the sale at the end of the day. So that's a really good question to make sure you're asking yourself, making sure you're putting effort in the right places in terms of you always have multiple avatars. But making sure that you're kind of prioritizing them in terms of, who's the real decision maker going to be here. So that's something else to consider.
Different avatar types, like stakeholders that are going to be. I know on our B2B side of our business, like you'll often have, if we're helping with a software product, users of the software product are typically doing a lot of the research, but the decision maker on signing off on it is almost always a different person. So a lot of times a CFO or someone in charge of budgeting. So how do we address that person's needs as well as the stakeholder who's in charge of leading a team that's going to use it? Both are really important. So that's great. That's a great piece of advice. I love that. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Lisa.
Of course.
For conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.